Good morning. This is Judy Love at 5747 White Hawk Hill Road in Mint Hill. And this is a tour of my garden that I've been working on for about 9 years. When Roger had this house built about 13 years ago, it had a row of dwarf yaupons in the front and a couple of azaleas right along the front here. And since then, when I moved down, I started poking around and figuring out how to work in this foreign red clay. And I've expanded it to the point where John Herrick, who has visited my garden, calls it the Hanging Gardens of Mint Hill. And it's a work in progress. I'm a little bit behind this year. I was busy doing indoor projects, and I now am madly gardening since there is this shelter-in-place order. So you see here, I had an early spring garden, and actually my garden does best in the spring. It sort of peaks in maybe early June, and then it fries the rest of the summer, which is very depressing. But I tried to add some annuals that are heat lovers, especially in the front here. This is what I would call my perennial border. You'll see that it goes the full length of the side of the house, and it was cut out into the yard to accommodate this tree right here, which is a coral bark maple, Japanese maple. And it has a wonderful pink bark in the winter, and when the foliage has dropped, and turns a beautiful golden pink color in the fall. So it's a really lovely tree. A friend helped me prune it this past fall, so it's recovering from some heavy-duty pruning. So all along here are all kinds of perennials and a few annuals. You'll see those sensation things are not doing too well. And these yellow irises are some that were given to me by a friend down the street, and she had too many, and so she passed them on, and you will see them dotted through the entire neighborhood because they are so prolific. This row of very tall, narrow crepe myrtles are deep pink late in the summer. And Roger, that was the first thing that Roger planted when he moved here. So you'll continue down here, various combinations of foliages and try to balance textures and colors. This is the gold mop cypress, which has been pruned into tree form. Looking a little bit thin right now, but it will thicken out as the season goes by. And coming up here is a weeping yaupon. So come along here, and there's a path that leads into what I call my little Tuscany. It's a stone patio that we had built by a company called the Stone Man in Charlotte. It's an exact oval with a pergola on top covered with Carolina jasmine, and a panpipe fountain. That was a wonderful story, but Dale Brooke has one just like it, and that inspired me. It was built with a inset garden at the end, which I always morph in different seasons. So this one, I'm not sure if I like it this year, but I'm working on it. So this is a border of irises on the end, and another triangle that I cut out of the hillside. You will notice soon, a river birch here that when we bought it was a skinny little sapling, was root bound and had dwarfed leaves because it was so suffering in its pot. And now it has grown to maybe 30 feet tall. Underneath it is a bed of all kinds of hostas. These are different kinds of daffodils that have gone by. Hostas and liriope on a terraced hillside. This is a Korean sweetheart tree, and those are Vitex over there in various colors. And you'll see now that this beautiful stonework that these stonemen did. It's a retaining wall. The hillside was so steep that there was nothing else to do but terrace it. So we had the stonemen do this retaining wall here, and then I built one myself farther down the hill, which I will show you from another angle. So this is another perennial bed, which has a lot of herbs in it. This is it's called jade butterfly. It's a dwarf ginkgo tree, which hopefully won't get that much bigger than it is now. Things seem to get bigger than I expect. This is all kinds of herbs and perennials in here, which were intended to only be about 12 to 18 inches high, but some of them end up being more like 2 feet. I like it when they don't obscure the view down the hill. Straight ahead, you'll see on the left with the green foliage a Franklinia tree, which is a sort of an unusual and hard thing to grow, and it's not doing that well, and a lavender twist weeping redbud. Here is a heavily pruned fig tree. And over on the right, another garden with all my tools in it. Another one that's in the process of being redesigned. I keep changing this one, and right now it's sort of tropical. It's beginning of ginger bushes, ginger trees rather, not trees, plants, and different kinds of cannas, and another ginkgo tree. So you'll see that the yard is not very big. Compared to Tom and Liv's house, which is what, over 2 acres. This is probably more like 1/10 of an acre at the most. So down we come down, and the hillside again is being divided into little sections. This is another wedge garden on the right, which has a variety of chrysanthemums and evergreens, low-lying ones, and there's a juniper that's high and a weeping bald cypress. Over here is a orphan tree that was given to me by a neighbor. It's a Merlot redbud with dark foliage coming up. That is not a snake on the grass, that is my hose. And now you can see this huge stone wall that I built a couple years ago. I figure it has about 7 tons of stone in it. It was a fun project. And I tried to put plants on the edge that cascade over the stone. Let's see if I can make it down the hill without falling. Coming down now, where I just walked, I've always intended to do a set of stone stairs, but that has not happened yet. So let me walk this way. So we're coming along a pathway, a garden that I call the berm, and this is when Roger bought the property. Right where I just walked was pretty much the end of the open space, and beyond that was all brambles and wild roses and honeysuckle and saplings. And I donned his motorcycle gear and came out and cleared it, and there was a natural pile of clay and dirt that they probably deposited there when they built the house, and so I thought it would make a great place to start planting. And so I left 5 trees, which were tiny skinny saplings at that time, and I cleared everything else, and then I started planting around it. And now the trees are really tall, and that's going to be my canopy of dappled light because it got so hot here that everything was burning up. So here you can see the other direction, that skinny triangle garden cut into the hillside. Another small retaining wall. This dirt area here I have plans to do one more terrace there, so it'll be 2 more levels, and then that's the path, which is only half mulched right now. I've run out of mulch. This is the beginning of the berm, which is maybe 40 feet long and 20 feet wide, and it has been changed significantly this spring to have, I've limbed up this red cedar that I rescued from the woods. It's a little tiny tree, and now it's gotten maybe 12 feet tall. And so I limbed it up, and it opened up a lot of space below it. And so I have transplanted from the rest of the garden a whole series of sort of woodland plants. So you'll see epimedium in here. These are really lovely, delicate flowers, different varieties. And acora, you have to forgive my pronunciation. I don't know my plants very well, but unusual fern there, and all kinds of sort of more like a woodland garden, because it does get partial to pretty full shade here. And you'll see that some of the things are pretty small because it's early spring still. On this side, this is a new garden I put in this spring. Those are my composters back there. My dog passed away this year, and this is the Bow Memorial Garden, and I planted a variegated dogwood on. It's a red twig dogwood right there, and it will be eventually 6 to 8 feet tall and wide, and has a beautiful variegated foliage. And there's a plant that's called fetterbush that I think is also called dog hobble, which I thought was appropriate for an old dog. So this is his garden. It's got all kinds of astilbes and ferns, foam flower, Virginia bluebell, May apples, and then you'll see all kinds of grassy type things, ajuga. And I left, these are native invasive privets, but they make wonderful shade, so I keep them just because I need the shade. So then you can see, if I stand back, the full view of this little pathway of grass through this garden area. And looking back up the hill, I don't know if the sun's going to be right in your eyes, because it probably is. You'll see the terraces in a second. This is a red buckeye on your left, which will eventually be a hopefully not too huge tree. And azaleas, lots of hellebores. This is a winter hazel. And that's a yellow twig dogwood. And right looking here is a whole new area that I just opened this spring, where I transplanted all of my daylilies and Stokes aster into this area. It gets more sun than other parts of the berm. This one over here is a dawn redwood, which will eventually get 100 feet high. We'll see what happens for that. And ilex, winterberry, viburnums, and things like that. That's a European hawthorn. This little stone wall, I built this last week just because I needed a change of level to accommodate these plants. So very wet down here this spring. It's very muddy underfoot. So for me, a garden is something that's always evolving, and I move plants around like domino pieces. No, not domino pieces, chess pieces. And we get a view looking back down this pathway. So as you can see, it's probably, you can see the upper stone walls way up there. I think there's like a 20 to 28 foot drop from that top level to the bottom, which has been terraced about in three or four levels. You can see here another vitex. That's a pink vitex. They are late to leaf out. This is an Osage orange with incredible thorns. And a patch of perennial begonias that will be about 2 feet tall and have incredible amounts of pink blossoms later in the season. These are some very crude steps that I cut into the hillside. And this is a pathway that's been cut out of the hillside. So here again you can see the different layers of stone walls. This is an oak leaf hydrangea that just got moved here, so I'm having to water it several times a day before so it doesn't dry up. Father Gilla, it's just about to go by. It was lovely this spring. And right in here is where it gets the most sun, so there are various flowering plants and that a lot of wood anemones, daylilies, caryopteryx. I have lots of lamb's ear. These are daisies. And bloodgood Japanese maple. So let's see if I can, on the goat, I can climb up these steep hills. So you can see the back side of the stone wall here. And as it curves around, again with my nice big snaky thing. On the left there's a stone wall in progress that I hope to tie into those stone steps as they come down the hill. There's an Arizona sapphire tree that's gotten to be very huge. And the back side of the house has an Edgeworthia, a gardenia, and some mahonia, but it still is not resolved, so we won't go there right now. That's too embarrassing. So that's it. Now I'm walking back along this top edge. You see all of that garden and the view down all the levels. So it's funny, it's almost like a theatrical set where you've got different flats as they recede into the back of the stage. And I'll walk through the patio, even though it hasn't gotten its interior plants all come out in the summertime, and this becomes a garden back here. But right now it's quite empty. But you can see that there's pretty good shade from the pergola. And there's a wind chime back there that makes lovely sounds when it's breezy. And here's the fountain with its little garden around the base. And I have two large urns on the pedestals on the ends, and I later will plant those with some kind of small miniature garden. And through here, there's a honeysuckle on the trellis. And there's a view of the perennial border on the back side of the house. So that's it. Thank you for joining me in the garden this morning. I take a tour of my garden every morning with my tea and every evening with a glass of wine. So it's a big part of my life, and it's been consuming all of my spare time in this time of being sheltering it at home. So I feel very lucky to have something that I can work on and help grow and makes me have a sense of peace and hope. So there we go, and maybe I'll take another video later when things have evolved again. So bye for now.